Sitting up here shortly.
Yeah. No Robin tonight? I'm surprised.
Don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like to call to order the July 23rd, 2018 regular meeting of the Littleton Planning Commission. Could we please have the roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Reynolds?
Here.
Commissioner Stallman?
Here.
Commissioner Rudnicki?
Here.
Commissioner Bolt?
Here.
Commissioner Coronado?
Here.
Commissioner Miller?
Here.
Commissioner Almond? Here. And Commissioner Breidenbaugh, I know is absent tonight. And Commissioner Schwartzbacher, I believe, should be coming in tonight. So let's see if she arrives late.
Well, we'll wait, and if we've got the hearing going, she'll be down below then. Okay, she's not here at the beginning. Okay, next item, approval of the agenda. You've all seen it. Are there any changes?
Nay.
Additions? Okay, seeing none. On tonight's menu, we have two preliminary plats, one for Watson Lane and the other one for Designs by Sundown. Next item is minutes to be approved. You've all seen the action minutes, and and you've all looked at the video. Take a motion to approve the minutes. Or any discussion?
Move to approve based on the recording secretary's certification, the 9 July 2018 action minutes for the 9 July 2018 regular meeting of the Littleton Planning Commission.
Second. Who's second?
Missed that.
Okay, thank you. Please vote.
Votes unanimous and the motion carries.
Thank you. Next item up is public comment. Public comment for, whoop. We can go after public comment, we'll go on. Okay.
Works for me.
Public comment for general business or non-agenda related items. We expect everyone to be respectful and without personal attacks. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. If you could please give your name and either your district or your address when you speak directly into the microphone. When you have 30 seconds left, Denise will hold up there she is, the yellow card, and just in case you need to know it's yellow. And then when your 3 minutes is up, she'll hold up the red card. If you haven't signed up, we'll ask if you'd like to speak after our sign-up people. Pam Chadbourne is our first and only sign-up.
You know if the projector's working? I'll get it turned on for you.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Pam Chadbourne. I live a block and a half from here in District 1. It should be clear to you by now that I think this commission is on the wrong road and going in the wrong direction. I'm going to talk to you tonight about why and how you can fix that. I think you should. And I picked out, this is from Title 10, Zoning Regulations, Administration, Definitions, and Enforcement. The purpose of our code is to preserve and promote the public health, safety, and general welfare of the inhabitants of the city and of the public generally, and to regulate development in such a manner to encourage and facilitate the orderly growth and expansion of the city. When commissioners come into this room, what I want to see is you take off your landscaper, your architect's hats. Whatever your personal business is, that's fine. But when you come in here, and the lawyer used this device, so I will too, the hat you put on is your hat of public service. When you are here, you serve us and the future residents of the city for the next 60, 80, 100 years. A lot of them are not here, so you bring data forward about the impact on the future of the city. If it's not brought by staff, then you insist that it be brought before you vote, before you make a decision or commitment that affects the health, safety, and general welfare of us now and in the future, because that's what Planning Commission is about. That's not what's been happening here. And it's a shame. There's about 5 documents that this commission has passed, this body has passed in the past 4 years, which have changed the city forever and will make it, in my opinion, less than it could have been. So let me mention, the process shouldn't be described by a lawyer, and it's not in our code. That's what they're for. The process that you bring is one that we know how to serve the public with, and that's a known process. I haven't seen it done here. And for public outreach, you offer alternatives. So rather than with the light rail station at Mineral giving us a TOD, there should have been 3 alternatives: a very modest growth scenario, a TOD scenario, and then a very aggressive growth scenario. And let the public respond to that. Don't make us look at documents. That's not our job. So again, let me say, I think this commission has failed in a major way. It should be fixed. And I'm just going to say what I've observed in Littleton governance in the past 5 years has led me to believe that America is not exceptional. We fail, and we fail big in just the way that people have always failed in history. I'm sorry that you have taught me this.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the Planning Commission on agenda item or unrelated item? Seeing no rush to the rostrum, we'll move on. Come on up. So you'll be our Robin for the evening? Okay. Okay, first item of business, general business, is PC Resolution 10-2018, a resolution regarding the designs by Sundown Subdivision, filing number 2, preliminary plat, case number PP 18-0004. Could we please have, and you're ready to go, a staff presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us tonight. My name is Rob Haig with the Community Development Department. The item before you tonight is a resolution recommending the approval of the Designs by Sundown Subdivision, filing number 2, preliminary plat. The major subdivision process requires that the Planning Commission approve the preliminary plats. The preliminary plat hearings, preliminary plats are approved through a quasi-judicial decision. This being a general business item, was not noticed, nor was the sign posted. The applicant seeks to subdivide approximately 7.02 acres into 2 separate lots. Zoning is I-1, and that is not proposed to change. Planning Commission first approves the preliminary plat. Following that approval, the final plat is then reviewed by staff for consistency with the preliminary plat approved here. And then following this meeting, the final plat is then approved by City Council at a public meeting. This final plat is currently tentatively scheduled for an August 7th meeting, pending the approval of this preliminary plat. The site is located just west of South Santa Fe Drive. Again, it's approximately 7.02 acres. It's zoned I-1 PDO. The current lot is occupied by a landscaping business and the associated structures, parking, and other improvements. To the north of the property is this additional area that's zoned I-1 PDO. To the south is a mix of R3, R4, and PDC zoning. To the east is R2, and to the west is an OS, open space zoning. It's owned by the city. This is an aerial view of the subject property and the proposed lot configuration proposed in this preliminary plat. So currently the lot is known as Lot 2 of the Designs by Sundown subdivision, filing number 1. The applicant is proposing to split this Lot 2 into Lot 2A to the west and Lot 2B to the east. All of the existing or the existing structures that support the landscaping business will remain on 2A. 2B will have some of the older structures that actually predated the arrival of this landscaping business, but will, after this point, not be associated with that business. Lot 2B is adjacent directly to South Santa Fe Drive. Lot 2A is not adjacent to any public right-of-way. However, it's served by two 30-foot wide access easements. The I-1 zone district does not have any requirement for minimum lot width, therefore no minimum frontage is required, just how this lot can be developed without, or created without any adjacency to public right-of-way. All setbacks can be met with the existing structures on the property. There are some additional setbacks that were put in place with the PDO to further buffer this development from the residential areas to the south. All of these are being respected. There's no development proposal with this subdivision beyond just the simple division of the lots. Some proposed project details. So the intent of the applicant to move this forward is to divide and sell the eastern 2.9 acres to actually the now and current property owners of the eastern lot. The eastern 2.9 acre lot, which is Breckenridge Brewery. The existing landscaping will remain on the western lot. And again, staff reviewed this in accordance with the zoning regulations and found that all of the minimum lot requirements in the I-1 district, as well as the further restrictions placed during the PDO process when the PDO was established, are all being met. There is some existing floodplain on the western property. And again, because there is no development occurring through this review process, the floodplain will not be impacted. It currently exists and will continue to exist in a non-build easement. So no changes with the floodplain through this development, or through this proposal, excuse me. So the subdivision regulations state that the commission shall review the preliminary plat and the city staff's report and recommendation at a regularly scheduled public meeting. And staff completed an analysis according to the subdivision regulations and is recommending approval of the application. Staff reviewed the application in accordance with the subdivision regulations, the zoning regulations, the overlying Designs by Sundown Plan Development Overlay, the comprehensive plan, the relevant neighborhood plans and corridor plans, and the existing and proposed development that surround the site. And the comments from affected agencies have all been addressed through the process. And therefore, staff recommends approval and finds that the application can meet the criteria for approval. Staff recommends approval of PC Resolution 10-2018. Following this hearing, City Council will take action on the final plat. That concludes staff presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you do have any.
Okay. Any questions of a technical nature for staff? Nothing? Nothing? Bruce?
Sure.
Couple clarifications. There's well, I guess the first technical issue would be by virtue of the existing zoning and PDO, and vis-a-vis the comp plan and the corridor plan, there's no indication of any encroachment on, nor would such be allowed outside of the zoning in place or the PDO that's in place, on the open space to the west of parcel, what was it, 2A. So there's no further, I mean, height limitations are as they are, as stipulated by the PDO or the zone. And there's no, the buffers and everything to keep the open space and the Mary Carter and the, South Platte Park and so forth and so on. Those all remain in place, and staff is vigilant in that regard. And then to the extent that a site development plan comes in, hypothetically, I guess, refresh my memory on that absent a rezone, that probably isn't something we see. It's an administrative issue, as I understood it. Is that correct?
So the maybe correct me if I'm wrong or clarify if I'm kind of answering your question in the wrong direction. There are additional setbacks that are put in place through the South Platte Corridor Plan, that buffer that you talked about.
Yes.
And those are still in place regardless of the underlying zoning.
Yeah.
So even though that changed in the past and with the establishment of this PDO, that didn't change, that buffer still exists and would still be subject to review if that property were to ever be developed further. There's a similar buffer against or along South Santa Fe.
Right.
And again, that's another situation that even though there's this overlying PDO and the I-1 zone change, those are still in place.
And the corridor plan and so forth and so on stipulates, but I mean, I guess pretty clearly, given the proximity to the open space and to the South Platte Park, maximum protections as already in place, there's no degrading of any of that with what, I want to just put this all out there, make sure it's on the record that what we're seeing here and in theory, what we're considering in a quasi-judicial hearing, there's no degradation of any of the park protections as they exist through everything that you just talked about.
And that's correct. And maybe to clarify one step further, this again is just the subdivision of this lot into one and the other, and so there's no development being proposed, which is why staff didn't find any conflicts with
Understand.
any of those. Yes, sir.
Perfect.
So
Okay.
that would all be during the site development plan or further review processes.
One other quick question. There's a letter in the packet whereby Breckenridge Brewery, which is a neighbor, that stipulate they have no objection to the proposed replatting application. The other neighbor, if you will, is Angelo's, and I forget the names of the folks that own Angelo's. Was there any communication with or from them that we're aware of with respect to their support or lack thereof for this application?
They did not submit any formal letter or referral response to this proposal.
Okay, so it is what it is.
What it is, yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
This side, any questions?
Yes, if I may, just one question on the links that were provided. There was one that, let me get back to it here, that referred to the South Platte Santa Fe corridor map under the comp plan. And is there a corridor plan that you looked at with respect to this site that might suggest that other uses may be compatible or higher and better in the long range?
So so we did look at that plan, both the corridor plan for the South Santa Fe Drive and the corridor plan for the South Platte. Because this proposal doesn't propose any new uses, we didn't review any use type development proposal here.
Okay.
So in the future, if something were to be proposed on either of these lots, at that point, then that's when that language would become more important.
Okay.
And would come to weigh in on these decisions.
Okay, thank you.
David, anything?
No, I'm good.
Just a couple items. One, just a minor edit, page 4, number 2, compliance with the zoning regulations. Third from the bottom line, current use, well, you talk about the parking requirements for current use of lot 1A. I assume you meant 2A.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so you might correct that before it goes to council.
I will, thank you.
The other item, I can't find it. I saw it this afternoon. I think it talked about a little bit of protection of natural features where applicable. I don't know the exact wording. This is a fairly nondescript lot, except for 2 or 3 or 4 magnificent trees on the east side. What would the city say this goes through? Development then occurs on this site. What does the city do to try to protect these wonderful trees?
I would have to look at the plans in that detail. So when I was reviewing this application for conformance and, we were strictly looking at this proposal, which was just the subdivision.
Don't need to. Okay.
So that, at this time, those plans do speak to preservation of trees, and our code does try to preserve those trees when possible. But specifically, I did not look at this application for those
Just
features.
thought I'd bring it up to get it on the record.
Absolutely.
There is some value, great value on the east side of that particular lot. By the way, I was asked by Mr. Stallman, since this is a general business item, I don't have to poll.
Quasi-judicial.
It's not quasi-judicial, so we're not polling who has visited the site and did you talk to anybody. Okay. I checked with our attorney before the meeting started. You wish to add to that?
Yes, just so the commission is aware, when you're reviewing a plat, you're not really reviewing use. What you're really reviewing is conformance to the city's design criteria. So things such as use or questions, we will certainly address the trees in the site planning process and when a site development plan comes in for commercial use. But really the focus of your analysis tonight is simply on the design criteria. Plats in Colorado, as in most states, are not quasi-judicial. They're what we call adjudicatory. Okay. And essentially you operate based upon deferring to the judgment of the administrative agency unless that's arbitrary, unreasonable, or capricious. And so it's not a quasi-judicial action tonight.
And I would just clarify design, meaning the design of the lots and any of those restrictions, not the design guidelines, the design of the lots itself that it's creating.
Any other questions of staff? Seeing none, thank you. Does the applicant wish to make a presentation?
Evening, Commissioners. Thanks for hearing us. I'm Bill Hesselbach with CVL Consultants. I've prepared both the preliminary and the final plat for this, as well as the original exemption plat and the dedication of the rights-of-way and easements for both Breckenridge Brewery and Designs by Sundown. I don't have a formal presentation at this time, since there is no real site development anticipated at this time for the Lot 2B. 2A, owned and operated by Designs by Sundown, is remaining as it is. They've done some minor patio improvements, excuse me, but there's no building changes, no drainage changes or anything like that. Excuse me. So, are there any questions or?
Any questions for the applicant? Just one. The existing buildings on what is it, 2B? Mm-hmm. Do they remain or do they get immediately demoed?
No, they're going to be remaining for right now until they come up with a site development plan.
Okay, so that the use will stay as far as storage and...
Those were, yeah, they've been there for many years prior to the development of both the brewery and Designs by Sundown.
Okay. Yes.
I recall, and I don't remember exactly where in the packet, but there was some maybe notation by CDOT that depending upon what happens with transportation studies, there might need to be, I don't know, an ingress modification of some sort. Maybe I'm not saying this quite correctly, so feel free to clarify. But I guess my question to the applicant is, as far as you guys are concerned, the plat, I suppose at this juncture, since we don't know what CDOT may need, it is what it is. If it ever happens, you'll deal with it, or whoever
Correct.
owns the parcel will.
Yeah, the owner then of Lot 2B would have to make any modifications
As required.
or a diesel lane for a right turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the only signaled spot is still going to be a brewery lane.
Right. Do you want to clarify any of this?
Maybe you ought to come up.
Hello? Oh, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that, yes, you're correct. So CDOT did respond, and their response was really just making the applicant aware that pending future development, a right turn decel lane might be needed. But right now, they weren't concerned with the proposed subdivision.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Unless there's anything else? Seeing none, thank you. Any other questions for staff? Or I'll entertain a motion. You being motion man for life?
Motion guy?
Motion guy. Motion dude.
Motion dude. Okay. I move to approve Planning Commission Resolution 10-2018, approving the preliminary plat for Designs by Sundown Subdivision, filing number 2.
We have a second?
Second.
This time we got it. Okay. Dan's a second. Any discussion? Comments?
I was just going to say, I mean, I think, in terms of the comp plans and so forth and so on, we talk about a distinctive Littleton, and I think Designs by Sundown is a local business that's grown up here. The folks that own it and run it are members of the community, and I think I think this site will remain a distinctive addition to what Littleton is, and I think the work Designs by Sundown does is pretty impressive, just generally speaking, in terms of their work output, and I don't have any issues with what they're trying to do here in terms of a final plat, and given the site there between Breckenridge and Angelo's, I think, hopefully we'll get something, someday they'll get something in there that's complementary, and I trust the guys, that the people that are involved, and I think, more power to them. So I'm glad they're here and working with us, and I would support this.
Okay. To me, it's not a controversial issue. The overlay doesn't change. The light industrial zoning doesn't change. Setbacks, heights, et cetera, all stay in place. I too look forward to seeing someday what will happen to that site. It's a pretty dynamic little area, and it'll be fun to see what happens. Any other comments?
It seems to me that industrial zoning isn't really the appropriate use there, but that's what's there, and that's what has been there, I know, and that the uses are compatible with that. But being so close to the greenway, it seems like there could be other uses. But I think this is a pretty straightforward application. I don't have any concerns with it in terms of approving it. I guess obviously by splitting that off, they're enabling some redevelopment to occur, and what's out there now isn't the greatest. It's so I think anything that is proposed there would be an improvement. So,
anyone else? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Time to vote.
All right, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Good luck. Okay. Next item, under general business, PC Resolution 18-2018, a resolution regarding the Watson Lane Reserve Subdivision Preliminary Plat, case number PP 18-0001. Again, could we have a staff presentation?
Thank you, Commissioners. So this item you have before you now is similar to the last. It is a preliminary plat as a request to approve Commission Resolution 18-002018 for the Watson Lane Reserve Subdivision, filing number 1, preliminary plat. So again, the major subdivision process requires that the Planning Commission approve preliminary plats. This is not a quasi-judicial decision. General business item does not require notice or sign posting. The application seeks to divide the existing 4.08 acre lot into 6 building lots with the associated tracts for access, drainage, and utilities. The property is zoned RE, and that is not proposed to change. Again, the Planning Commission is approving the preliminary plat. This particular preliminary plat, or this particular subdivision, does not have a scheduled date yet for the final plat approval. Will be scheduled pending the approval here, will be reviewed in the same way in accordance with this preliminary plat at that time. So here's the site location, located just south of West Bowles Avenue, just west of South Watson Lane. Again, approximately 4.08 acre parcel. It's zoned RE. To the north is R3 zoned. To the east is RE PDO. And to the south and west is not within the city's jurisdiction. The current uses on the subject property are single family and with some agricultural uses and the associated structures with those residential and agricultural uses. This is an aerial view of the subject property and the proposed lot layout in this proposal. So just to kind of go over the image, or the right-hand side of this image. So the purple indicates areas that are to be tracked. So those are not going to be the developable lots. There's two that you can see. One is the C-shaped tract that runs through the property. This is the location of the private roadway. It will not be dedicated or maintained by the city. It will be maintained by the HOA once it is established. The other tracks are for drainage, maintenance access, and utilities. There are also several easements that will be established through this preliminary plat and final plat process to allow for easements, drainage, and so forth. Additionally, at the north end of the subject property is the green sliver there. That is an area that will be dedicated to the city as right-of-way to expand the sidewalk on West Bowles Avenue. In addition to the sidewalk on West Bowles Avenue, there will be a sidewalk constructed on South Watson Lane. So staff reviewed these 6 lots. They all meet the required frontages for the RE zone district, the minimum lot size, and with the setbacks considered, they were all able to create functional shaped and sized lots that will be buildable. Also, prior to this process, or prior to this hearing tonight, the applicant went through a use by special exception to modify the floodplain because as it currently exists, the majority of lots 1 and 6 and a portion of lot 5 and 4 are within zone or the floodplain zone. And so in order to remove those from the floodplain, the applicant is proposing grading, which was approved through the prior process. So again, 6 building lots for private ownership, 4 tracks for roadway, utilities, drainage, easements, or drainage and access. The 2 dedications and the construction of the sidewalks and the floodplain issues there are all resolved. Water quality will be handled through porous landscape detention facilities. And again, they do meet all of the requirements of the RE zone district. So, according to the city subdivision regulations, the commission shall review the preliminary plat and the city staff's report and recommendations at a regularly scheduled public meeting. The commission shall approve said plat or approve said plat with modifications. So, staff did review this application in order to ensure compliance with the subdivision regulations, the zoning regulations, the comprehensive plan, and the Goddard neighborhood plan. And found that it does comply with those plans, those regulations, as well as fitting in with the surrounding residential zone districts, those being R3 to the north being more dense and the similar density to the east. Additionally, we found that through the preliminary plat process and our referrals to the affected agencies, all of their comments have been addressed at this point. Based on this analysis, staff finds that the application can meet the criteria for approval and therefore recommends approval of PC Resolution 18-2018. Following this hearing, the City Council meeting will be scheduled and subsequently they will review the final plat for approval, which is the final action in this subdivision process. That concludes staff's presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions for staff?
Yeah, I had one question. The referral agency response from Platte Canyon Water and Sanitation District. It looked like there was just a memo there that talked about, I guess somebody, a manager or something was on vacation. It was regarding the number of sewer taps being maybe limited. Has that been cleared? Everything good there, or is that?
Good evening, Anastasia Urban, Development Services Manager with Public Works. This subdivision will connect to a Platte Canyon sanitary main, and there is an existing agreement with Platte Canyon, between Platte Canyon and the City of Littleton, about the number of taps. This does require an amendment that would be presented to the City Council concurrent with the final plat to amend the agreement. Platte Canyon is in concurrence with the additional number of units, but the agreement has to be formally amended.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else down this end? No? Down this end? Seeing none? Bruce?
Memory serves, there's a stoplight at Watson Lane, is there not?
There is not a traffic signal at Watson Lane.
First one is at Federal?
Federal, due to the proximity of location of Federal, it is too close for a signal.
Which is close, okay. So from a traffic engineering standpoint, there's no indication that the incremental amount of traffic flow from this subdivision as platted is going to cause any material concerns with respect to Bowles, east or west?
That is a true statement. The additional of 5 lots is negligible compared to the existing traffic that's on Bowles. And then the city does have a study underway to look for improvements at Bowles and Federal, separate from this subdivision. It's not being triggered by this subdivision.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And if memory serves, we looked at I want to say a rezone proposal on this site. What was that, about a year and a half ago or a year ago? Ish?
I believe it was approximately two years ago.
That one it was? Yeah, okay. And that was a denser development.
That's correct. And I believe after the Planning Commission meeting, recommendation of denial, I believe it was eventually withdrawn.
Understand, okay.
How many units was that? Do you remember?
I'd say 20 or something, wasn't it?
22.
Yeah.
22?
Okay, all right. Let me see, did I have anything else? I'll yield if anybody else has a question. I thought I had one other one, but, I actually do remember.
Oh.
Well,
Go ahead.
there was a comment from Columbine Valley about the developer, the Brookhaven HOA and Urban Drainage resolving their ped bike golf cart access onto Brookhaven Lane. I guess before I go there, let me clarify. The HOA is basically, that's filed as an encumbrance in the titles with these parcels with the county, right? So if somebody buys a parcel, they are aware there's an HOA governing that they're legally, the title work would require them to basically commit to what, the HOA's oversight to the whole thing. That's the way that works, right?
I believe that's over tract, the tract with the drainage way in it, if I'm not mistaken. As far as any agreement goes between the neighbor to the south, who controls that tract.
Well, I was thinking, you got an HOA that's responsible for the
proposed lots
and the road.
And the road,
Watson's
right.
Circle. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe this isn't what you're asking. The HOA that's established after this subdivision process will maintain the private access.
Yes.
There.
But what I'm saying is just the process whereby the property owners come in, if you buy into an HOA, it's part of the title encumbrance, is it not, on the property that it's subject to an HOA, so they would be aware of this when they, I don't remember how it works, but I mean, how does somebody become aware of the fact that they're buying a parcel that's subject to an HOA?
HOAs are recorded by covenants and declarations, and so those covenants and declarations are recorded against the property, so that provides notice on title to future homeowners.
Okay, that's where I was going, okay. So the Brookhaven issue, do you want to address that, the bike ped golf cart issue?
That might be a more applicable, or a question better answered by the applicant.
That'd be fine.
My understanding is they resolved that issue with the neighboring HOA to the south.
Which is fine, maybe the applicant can address that for us.
Thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask too, I haven't been by this property in a little while, and are there still structures on that site that need to be demoed, or have those been?
I believe the structures still exist.
Pardon me?
I believe the structures are still existing.
Demolition permits have been issued and the structures have been taken down. There are, some existing trees that the applicant's working with our landscape manager on approval of tree removal permits. We're working with both the applicant and the landscape manager to maintain as much as we can on site for the trees.
Any other questions of staff? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Would the applicant like to make a presentation?
Good evening, Frank Trainer, 5910 South Watson Lane. I live across from the property. I don't have a presentation, but I'd be happy to answer questions. I can start with Brookhaven HOA. We've executed an easement and drainage document with them, agreement with them. As we speak, they're meeting to tally the votes on the golf cart access. Preliminary indications are that it will be overwhelmingly approved, but that meeting's taking place now, and I haven't gotten a text message, so I don't know. Are there any other questions?
Any questions of the applicant?
Could you talk about any public outreach you did for this proposal?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Could you talk about any public outreach, neighborhood meetings that you may have had for this proposal?
Yeah, I've met with Brookhaven HOA at their meeting, and Watson Lane HOA. We've had representatives of both HOAs go to each other's meetings, and I've spent an unbelievable number of hours with their HOA boards, Brookhaven HOA's board.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? No? This way, anything? Seeing none.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? If not, entertain a proposal or a motion, please. Let's do somebody else do a motion here. Dan, you're up.
I move to approve PC Resolution 18-2000, or 2018, excuse me, approving the preliminary plat for Watson Lane Reserve subdivision.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Sherry's a second. Okay. Any discussion, comments? You raised your finger first. Go ahead, Bruce.
Yeah, consistent with the citywide plan, I agree, again, with the diversity of housing and with the attributes of a distinctive Littleton, but I think the intention to develop single-family properties that fit the character of the surrounding neighborhoods, which is something we always, I think, strive to do, which is stipulated in the citywide plan, along with the additional right-of-way on Bowles as far as connectivity and bike ped attributes. I find that this plan meets the requirements of the city code, and I'll support it accordingly.
Just wanted to make the observation that adding a 9-foot sidewalk on West Bowles will do a lot to improve pedestrian connectivity in the area, and if only Columbine Valley had done that on the properties to the west, so we'd have a nice wide sidewalk all the way along West Bowles and increase pedestrian comfort in that corridor, which can be awfully scary if you're on foot or on a bicycle. Congratulations to the applicant on the supreme amount of public outreach that he did. We heard a bit about the background on this project when we saw it as a request to adjust the floodplain, and really appreciate the amount of work that he and his team have put in.
Well, and again, and I was going to mention as well, Mike, congratulations as well. This certainly, the public testimony and the decisions that were made a couple of years ago on the prior project. I mean, I think this is at least speaking strictly for myself. I mean, and not, we don't have site development or anything, but I mean, the concept that you guys came up with here is certainly appears to be a better fit with your neighbors, and certainly really resonates, I think, much better with what the city would like to see in this area, given the nature of the parcels and the surrounding neighborhood. So congratulations on coming up with what looks to be like what appears to be a very strong plan in that regard, as far as this plat is concerned.
Anyone else?
Percent at all.
Okay.
I'll just say a few things. One, I do agree that this is a very efficient layout of the site. It seems to be the best use for it. It seems to be compatible with the surrounding areas. I love the idea of the sidewalk along Bowles. The one thing I don't like is the idea of a 9-foot high sound wall there, but I understand that in order to be a livable property right along Bowles there, that's probably necessary. But the sound wall that exists on the other side, already farther west, is objectionable, just visually and physically, the way that a pedestrian, it doesn't promote that pedestrian scale. So I'm hoping that some street trees along there will help, or something, some type of landscaping that brings down the scale of that wall. I do wonder, the technical aspect of, and maybe this is a clarification that staff could provide, is how I wasn't quite clear on how the floodplain is being changed, or is that through urban drainage, or is that a Clomer, or?
The Planning Commission approved the use by special exception, and so that is the planning mechanism from the city's perspective to allow for the amendment of the floodplain. And so physically, the site that has the lots that have the floodplain, the grading has been reviewed both by the City of Littleton and urban drainage. And then there is a Clomar in place, so that is with FEMA. So there will be fill placed on those lots in accordance with the approved grading plan, and then the developer will need to submit a letter of map revision. So that's a LOMAR, basically an as-built plan saying that this is what we built in accordance with what was approved. Okay. And those lots that have the floodplain currently will need to have the LOMAR approved before we can issue building permits to make sure that they're fully clear of floodplain before the building permits are issued.
I see. Okay. Well, that's all I had.
Dan, anything? Okay. Well, my comments are, this is nothing but pluses here. We're keeping, or you're keeping the RE zoning in place, which is nice. The allowable uses stay in place. Nothing but plus there. Compared to the 22 units that we saw 2+ years ago, this is a lot more palatable for the neighbors, Planning Commission, the city as a whole. It's not often, probably never, that we see a density of a housing development matching the adjoining neighborhood. Usually they're 1.5 times, 2 times the units, squabbles in the neighborhood, quite contentious situations. This is pretty amazing. So, any other comments? Seeing none, let's vote. Block me.
No, yeah. Wasn't sure how you were going to.
All right, the motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Thank you very much, and good luck to you.
From your lips to God's
Units available next year.
Yeah, don't be bashful.
Okay, next up, staff reports. Are there any staff reports?
Yes, I would. One announcement. We'd like to introduce you to our new planning manager, Mike Sutherland, who's sitting directly across from me. We're very excited to have him on board. I think today is day 11. And he has more than 10 years' experience in planning, so we're really excited to have him on board and wanted to introduce you to him. Thanks.
Where were you working before, Littleton?
Thank you, Rob. I was in Broomfield for the past 13 years, and then I worked in Aurora for 4 years before that, and I started my career in Thornton. So I'm a native of the Denver area and just thrilled to be in Littleton.
Thank you, and welcome. Well, welcome to both of our newcomers here. So,
thank you.
We'll try to get some meatier issues for you with a full house. They're coming.
Mark, just two more things.
Yes.
Also wanted to thank Anastasia for attending this evening, so thank you, Anastasia. And then lastly, to let you know that tomorrow at the council study session, they're going to be talking about the P4 and process. So after that, and just, is it working, are there process things that we want to tweak? After that discussion, I will bring it and we will talk about it at Planning Commission as well, just to let you know. So at a future meeting when you have some room on the agenda.
Okay, so we've had, 2 P4s so far in planning?
Had 3 total.
3?
Yep.
Okay. So,
and we expect another one coming in soon, so.
So we'll have a study session on tweaking the process?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then Denise has one other thing to share.
It's come to my attention that all of your iPads need updating. So 2 options. If you'd like to leave them behind with me, I can get them updated with the help desk and back to you in the next week or so whenever you want to pick them up. Or if you'd like to bring them in on your own time, you can go to the help desk, and they said within 10 minutes or so they could get it updated and handed right back to you. So either option is fine. Just let me know after the meeting.
Please erase your inappropriate photos from before you turn them in.
But they'll update both iLegislate, which if you've been experiencing any kind of problems, it's because there's a new version, and that's kind of been the update problem. And then just other things on your iPad need updating.
Okay. That's it. Commissioner comments, you had one?
Respectfully, with regard to comments that were made at the outset of the meeting, Planning Commission is a group of volunteer citizens who raise their hands and are vetted by council to do a job. And the job is as indicated. And in all honesty, I have take no umbrage. I have no qualm with anybody who doesn't like a given decision. It's flat out impossible to please all the people all the time, and that's not our objective. Our objective is to do what council has asked us to do, which in fact, I believe we have done. But more to the point, this particular group has a wide diversity of skills and experiences and expertise that benefits the community broadly by virtue of the fact that there are topics individuals may be cognizant of or raise based on their expertise that others of us would have no knowledge of. And so the body benefits from having those conversations and having that input into our deliberations. Having been around these things for a while, I'm extremely proud of the people that we're serving with here, that we did serve with on the past, that I did serve with on the past commission. But these are folks who give of their time away from their families, of their businesses, of their personal lives, to do a job that the city and the citizens need done. And there is no pay. We don't get paid anything because we're volunteers. For the most part, council doesn't either. They get a stipend, but it basically covers expenses. It never really, it's not a paycheck, in terms of, oh, you're going to join council, because you want to make money. And in fact, Planning Commission gets commissioners as well as all of the other volunteer commissioners that council appoints gets a big fat zilch when it comes to remuneration. Our remuneration is doing the job to the best of our abilities. And I've never served with anyone who didn't have as their overriding objective to do the best job they could on behalf of the citizens broadly of this community, because we're all members of this community and we all want it to thrive. Again, feel free to suggest that, you disagree with a decision or with a work product. God love you, but it's the result of the body's deliberations. And so you're getting, and the community's getting a diverse slice of the community that sits up here and has had input into that. And so me personally, I'm just very proud to not only of what we've been doing and how we've been doing it, in particular how we've been doing in terms of taking the citizens' comments, broadly speaking, and input to heart, and doing our best to reflect what we view as in the best interest of the community, weighing the, using the scales of our own individual scales of value and worth and so forth and so on. So thanks to you guys for raising your hands and saying, yeah, I'm willing to do the job and come every Monday, but spend a lot of time outside of what we do here, both in terms of reading packets and visiting sites. And the truth of the matter is, there's 44,000 people in this community, and the vast majority of them don't know what they're missing, because most of them won't raise their hands and say, hey, I want to get involved. But that's okay, because they all have lives and they're living their lives and they do what they need to do, and that's great. But that's why it's a privilege to do this, and why council has seen fit to put everybody up here. And I think they did an extraordinary job this time of populating a commission that's got great diversity and the eye on the prize, as it were. So I just needed to say that. Thanks.
Just add a couple of things. Is one, in the last few years, the city has vastly improved the public input portion of our information packets. Used to be that we very rarely spoke to the public, very rarely gathered information from property owners, business owners. That's completely changed. I spend a lot of time, and every other commissioner here spends a lot of time going over public input and working that into our decision-making process. For my last couple of years, I found that I'm thinking more of not the expediency of the moment, but thinking about 100 years ago when good decisions were made by planning commissioners or city council members, and we are enjoying their good decisions made back then. The decisions we make today will affect the next 100 years, so we need to make good decisions, and I think we are doing a good job making our decisions. Just a couple other points. You probably all read that the downtown design standards, the final version was issued. I haven't had a chance to look at it, or I think you also published the list of our minor edits, so need to look at that. That's a pat on the back for all of us, that hard work, but we got it done. Lastly, last city council Bellevue corridor plan was approved with one change, changed the title from plan to vision. I think that was it, maybe some minor edits, but so we now have a corridor vision for Bellevue. Looking forward to staying busy and moving on to the next item, and please overwork us, okay?
And just to clarify.
Hopefully I can say that for all commissioners.
Just to clarify, so the design standards will now be ratified. It's on the agenda for City Council for August 7th, but as you stated, Planning Commission has final approval over that, so they are actually effective based on your decision.
Kind of like this for council.
And then once we make those, there was a few minor edits for the Bellevue plan. Once those are cleaned up, we will also be getting that final document to you as well.
Thank you. Any items? Anything else? We are adjourned. Thank you.